Thoughts are things: desire, faith, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, power of the mastermind, the mystery of sex, transmutation, the subconscious mind, the brain, the sixth sense. If you read the book, you'll see that all of these concepts relate primarily to thoughts. But you don't get rich by simply thinking. You get rich by doing. More specifically, you get rich, highly productive, or happier when your thoughts and your actions are congruent. Although one of Hill's most famous thoughts is about action, the man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. His book doesn't go far enough. You must marry actions to your thoughts if you want to reach your goals. Your thoughts are the starting point of your dreams, and you owe it to yourself to aim high with your dreams. The sad part is that many people never get beyond dreaming. Their dreams end in their thoughts. That unrealized potential to do something great and be happy can be maddening. Dreams are the essence of impossibility thinking. You must be able to dream to plant the seeds of what you think you can do in life. It's when you combine that impossibility thinking with intentional actions aimed squarely at achieving your dreams that you become a possibility achiever. Think of your dreams as challenges that live inside of you. You lose nothing by challenging yourself this way. It's healthy, and I strongly encourage you to think long and hard about what will help you find your version of riches in life. But don't stop there. To realize what life has in store, you must think and do rich. Dreams and thoughts without accompanying actions will only depress and frustrate you. One more thinkers understand this and implement an updated corollary of Newton's third law of motion. You know the original law, which states, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. In this case, that updated corollary is, for every thought there is an equal and complementary action. Thoughts and actions act as a pair. Borrowing more from Newton's law, one more thinkers also understand that the size of the thoughts you have should be equal to the force of the actions you should take. You can't always control your thoughts. That's the beauty of the human brain at work. There are no wrong dreams in your head. The problem is that it's impossible to measure your thoughts or the thoughts of someone else. However, you can control what you do, and what you do is measurable. For example, if you work out at the gym and you want to increase your arm strength, 2 sets of 8 reps on the dumbbell curls can become 3 sets of 10 reps. If you want better cardio fitness, 30 minutes on the treadmill can become 45 minutes. Instead of working out 3 days a week, you can go to the gym 5 days a week. Measuring your progress by measuring your actions makes you a possibility achiever. Are there risks and costs associated with taking action? Of course there are. But the risks and costs associated with not taking action are a lot more. Inaction stifles progress and kills personal growth. Your time is finite and limited, so why would you continue to sit still instead of engaging in the life you are meant to lead? Become an impossibility thinker and a possibility achiever. Great philosophers throughout history have long understood the link between thoughts and actions. The Greek philosopher Epictetus encouraged his followers to not worry about anything outside of your control. The only things you can command are your thoughts and actions. We choose our response. Stop aspiring to be anyone other than your best self, for that does fall within your control. 1 John chapter 3 verse 18 tells us, "Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions in truth." Mahatma Gandhi is one of many who voiced a version of the following: your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. Mark Twain kept it simpler but equally effective when he wrote, "Actions speak louder than words, but not nearly as often." The concept of being an impossibility thinker and a possibility achiever is not new. The problem is that putting these two ideas together is often overlooked. Procrastination, denial, or fear are common reasons why thinkers get stuck thinking and don't move on to doing. Lots of guys will see an attractive woman and think about asking her out, but only a few will break through their fear or procrastination and have the guts to follow through. Ever see a beautiful woman on an average man's arm and ask yourself, how did he do that? He did that because he's a one more impossibility thinker and a possibility achiever. Babies are remarkable human beings. Take the simple act of a baby learning to walk. All his or her life, a baby has only known crawling. They see other humans upright and walking around, and they begin to imagine a world where they would break through the impossibility of standing upright on their own. At first, they'll grab onto a coffee table or a couch and pull themselves up. They will fall. There will be a few tears, bumps, and bruises. Eventually, that baby is going to stand upright, put one foot in front of the other, and much to mom and dad's delight, start walking like its old hat. It takes babies hundreds of hours of practice from the moment of first learning how to stand to walk unassisted. It's a monumental achievement worthy of every parent's celebration. If a baby can do it, you can become an impossibility thinker and a possibility achiever too. You must be willing to dream big, take a chance, set your barriers aside, and do it anyway. Whether it's learning how to ballroom dance, day trade stocks, or set a goal of headlining at Carnegie Hall, put your subconscious to work, and soon enough your actions will propel you towards your goals. Watching your silent movie. If you show me your actions and behaviors, I can show you how you think. That's because what you do is a reflection of how you're thinking. However, what you're thinking isn't always a reflection of what you do. This is important because once you understand how the relationship between a person's thoughts and actions work, you can predict their behavior. I'm sure you'll agree. That's a powerful tool to have at your disposal. Here are several examples of what I mean. I can't tell if you're thinking about going on a diet to lose 40 pounds, but I can tell you what your body will look like based on how you eat and work out. Do you gorge late at night on cookies and ice cream? Or do you hit the gym and go for a run several days a week? Several tells for a woman going on a first date with a man will reveal to her the kind of guy he is and whether she should carry the relationship forward. These aren't disqualifiers, but they are indicators. For example, does he open doors for you? If you're at a restaurant, how does he treat the hostess and the waitstaff? Does he shut his phone off when he's talking with you? Or at the very least apologize if he has to take an important phone call? What many people call women's intuition could just be highly tuned observational note-taking. When you're sitting across the table from someone attempting to negotiate a big business deal, what does that person's body language tell you about their interest level? Are they anxious to wrap things up? Or do they ask important questions to drill down to the deal's finer points? Do they try to grind on you every little detail? Or do they understand the best deals are win-win and instead seek common ground? In these situations, and most of your interactions with others, what you do trumps how you think. Your life isn't based on your thoughts. Your life is based on your actions. Show me what you do, and I'll tell you what you think. To illustrate the point, I've developed something I call watching a silent movie. Suppose in all your interactions with others, there was no sound. You had no choice but to make assumptions and decisions about others based only on what their actions were. In effect, no sound means you can't hear their thoughts. However, despite no sound, you can still see the outcome of their thoughts by how their silent movie plays out in front of you. Here's another easy way to understand and test out watching a silent movie. The next time you're sitting on your couch at home, find a show you haven't watched before. Flip it on, but then mute the sound. Romantic comedies are an excellent genre to test out. Often, the plots are centered on hidden desires that reveal themselves over 2 hours. Play the game. Can you figure out the plot based on the action only? You may already do this when a friend or family member calls you during a show you don't want to stop watching. You mute the television, you have a short chat, all the while eyeballing your show. Most of the time when the call ends, there's no need to rewind. You just unmute and keep watching your show, never feeling like you missed a beat. Alignment is the key. In life, winning is all about how well you interact with others. Trying to understand what's on someone's mind is a critical element for a positive outcome. Except, as I've mentioned, you can't always tell what people are thinking. Yes, many people do tip their hand by talking too much. But just as many people hide their thoughts by being tight-lipped. In some cases, they'll even lie to you. What works well in reading other people works well for you, too. Alignment between your thoughts and actions is essential for success. Even though balancing thoughts and actions can be a challenge for many people, alignment occurs when your thoughts manifest themselves in the actions you take. This is why the best of the best become impossibility thinkers and possibility achievers. When you set high standards and take actions congruent with those standards that you've thought about, you'll enjoy success and bliss. As English philosopher and physician John Locke once said, I have always thought the actions of men the best interpreters of their thoughts. With the seeds firmly planted in your brain, it is much easier to act in a certain way if you are aligned. I know positive thinkers who have won in life, but I also know many skeptical and pessimistic thinkers who have succeeded in life as well. I know some people with tremendous vision who have won, and people with an equally big vision who have lost. I also know some people with limited vision who have succeeded. I know big and aggressive thinkers who have won, and others who are conservative and risk-adverse who have won as well. There is no single way of thinking that causes people to be successful. But there is only one way of acting and behaving that can lead to extraordinary results. Become a one more impossibility thinker and a possibility achiever. Reflecting on Martin Luther King Jr. and strength to love. If you know anything about me, you know I believe Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the finest human beings who ever lived. I look to him often with reverence and as a source of comfort and common sense. I want to share this passage from his collection of sermons, Strength to Love, because of its profound impact on me, and I hope it will have the same effect on you as well. There is no finer way to sum up the ongoing challenge of what it means to be an impossibility thinker and possibility achiever than these words. One of the greatest tragedies of life is that men seldom bridge the gulf between practice and profession, between doing and saying. A persistent schizophrenia leaves so many of us tragically divided against ourselves. On the one hand, we proudly profess certain sublime and noble principles, but on the other hand, we sadly practice the very antithesis of these principles. How often are our lives characterized by a high blood pressure of creeds and an anemia of deeds? We talk eloquently about our commitment to the principles of Christianity, and yet our lives are saturated with the practices of paganism. We proclaim our devotion to democracy, but we sadly practice the very opposite of the democratic creed. We talk passionately about peace, and at the same time we assiduously prepare for war. We make our fervent pleas for the high road of justice, and then we tread unflinchingly the low road of injustice. This strange dichotomy, this agonizing gulf between the ought and the is, represents the tragic theme of man's earthly pilgrimage. Chapter 12. One more habit. Your net worth to the world is usually determined by what remains after your bad habits are subtracted from your good ones. Benjamin Franklin. Show me your habits, and I'll show you your life. I can predict with a high degree of accuracy the results you're going to achieve based on your habits, because the outcomes in your life are directly related to your habits. Your brain understands the importance of habits because it's an incredibly efficient organ. The brain's DNA is hardwired to protect you by conserving mental energy whenever it can. Saving energy means that the reserves can be applied to other parts of your life where more brain power is needed. What does that have to do with habits? Your brain is constantly trying to save energy. This is an important point to understand because it directly relates to how to build and change habits and why you even have habits in the first place. Habits are a direct result of your brain subconsciously taking actions in a way to ensure that you'll use less energy to get a desired outcome. With habits, your brain already knows what you need to do, and it switches into autopilot mode, much like setting a car on cruise control to create maximum fuel efficiency. Think of how many times you've awakened in the morning and gone through your favorite routine of grooming, getting dressed, and eating breakfast. If you have a set schedule, there's a good chance that most days you've sleepwalked through all these tasks before fully realizing you're awake and ready to start your day. You know that jolt, the first moment of morning clarity, and it rarely strikes you when you first wake up. You got to that point in the day because your habits carried you through. Here's the kicker. Several studies have shown that most of the actions you take are habits. Some people drink 2 cups of coffee by 8 a.m. without fail. Other people eat lunch at precisely the same time every day. Golfers have an exacting routine when they swing a club, and people who go to the gym often do so on the same days of the week and do the same workouts every time. Sometimes these habits are even more specific and more routine, and we're even less aware of them. For example, most people either brush their teeth first or jump in the shower first to start their day. It never varies. How about you? Which do you do first? And how often do you think about it? Let's take it a step further. We'll talk more about triggers further down in this chapter, but for now, when you step into the shower, the water is a trigger that starts a habit of what you do in the shower. Do you start by shampooing your head? Do you grab a bar of soap and lather up your face and then the rest of your body? Do you routinely stand and just let the water run down your back for a minute while you're relaxing or starting to plan your day? I'll bet there's a grooming sequence you go through every day and you don't even think about it, do you? That's a prime example of how habits work. When you get in your car to begin your work commute, turning the car on is a trigger that starts the habit of how you'll drive to work. You may adjust your mirrors, buckle your seatbelt, turn on your car radio, plug in a favorite podcast, and check your fuel level before putting your car into drive and pulling away from your home. Your brain goes into habit mode because you've already driven to work so many times that your brain knows what to do with a lot less active thinking on your part. That single trigger of starting your car initiates a habit that lasts for the duration of your commute to work, saving you a lot of brain energy in the process. Countless types of activities are habits. You don't think about them, you just do them. And many times those habits work out just fine for you, but not always. Sometimes you develop bad habits, and they don't end up serving you well. When that happens, if you want to change your life for the better, pay close attention to your habits and make changes that align with what you want out of life. Be intentional about your habits. Under pressure, you'll always move into a habitual mode in your brain. Habits are reflexive. For example, if you want to maintain a high level of fitness, but you're in the habit of only going to the gym twice a week, and you sneak a lot of junk food into your diet, you're not going to achieve that goal. If you want a close-knit and happy family life, do you schedule a date night once a week with your spouse? Or private time with your kids? Is there a recurring time in your home where you all gather as a family? Do you have the habit of eating at the dinner table together most nights? Those types of habits are what create a happy family life for you. Perhaps you want more peace in your life, but you don't cultivate the habit of praying, meditating, or going to church. How will you calm your mind if you don't do the things you need to put you in a state of grace? Or if you want to be a great leader, but don't actively apply critical principles of leadership in your work and personal life, you'll fall in those areas as well. Getting fired up about living your life well each day is important, but nowhere near as important as having good habits. Octavia Butler put it into perspective this way when she said, "Forget inspiration. A habit is more dependable. Habits will sustain you whether you're inspired or not." Contrary to what you believe and what you may have been told, the biggest separator in life is not motivation or inspiration. It is the habits you create to get you through those days when you don't really feel like doing the things you need to do to be successful. What do you do when you're not feeling great or when it's not your best day? How do you make progress on your projects and goals at those times? It's rituals and habits. Motivation and inspiration come and go, but rituals and habits are constant. Creating positive and effective habits will change your life. The good news is that this can take place with just a few simple steps. There's no need to overcomplicate the process. However, before you can learn how to do this, it's crucial to understand how habits are born, why we rely on them so much, and what happens inside of our brain when a habit kicks in. The science of habits. When you understand how habits are created and why your brain uses them to benefit you, learning how to upgrade your habits makes more sense. Life would be so much easier if we lived in a relaxed state all day long. Instead, often, we live with varying degrees of pressure and stress. This stress can be caused by anything such as paying bills, hitting a pressure shot in a game if you're a basketball player, having a disagreement with your spouse, or attending an important meeting with your boss or a big client. On the other hand, you view these as normal parts of your life. However, in neurological terms, your brain does not distinguish between these events and treats them as threats. When we perceive threats, our brain flips a switch, moves out of thinking mode, and goes into a reflex mode. We react and revert to what we know as a form of protection, and what we know are our habits. In biological terms, in response to a perceived threat, your hypothalamus activates and prompts your adrenal glands to release hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline increases your heart rate, raises your blood pressure and energy levels. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone, and when it's activated, it releases glucose into the bloodstream. That triggers several bodily functions, including alarm systems in the region of the brain that control mood, motivation, and fear. Also, when stress hits, you go into a habit mode. If you don't have the right habits in place, you'll sink into depression, despair, and fear. When this repeatedly happens over a long period, it can lead to chronic anxiety, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, digestive problems, and memory and concentration degradation, among others. By contrast, when you engage in positive habits that result in good outcomes, your body produces dopamine. Dopamine creates a sense of euphoria, and this euphoria dials your bodily systems back and conserves energy, which is what your brain naturally tries to do as much as possible. If your habits involve confidence, passion, resilience, strength, and peace, you'll reflexively respond with those emotions when stress hits. Dopamine pathways control the operation of the basal ganglia. Basal ganglia are located near the base or the bottom of the brain. This cluster of nuclei has extensive roles in the brain, including involvement in a variety of cognitive, emotional, and movement-related functions. Here's how all this ties back to habits. Brains can change and adapt as a result of experience. This is known as brain plasticity or neuroplasticity. Neurons are the building blocks of the brain and nervous system. Neuroplasticity means that they can be rewired, develop new pathways, and create new connections. When Basal ganglia engage in neuroplasticity. This is how new habits are created. Neuroplasticity is what allows you to learn new things, enhance your cognitive capabilities, recover from strokes and traumatic brain injuries, and strengthen some brain functions you've lost or are in decline. Now, let's take this science and plug it into how you can develop one more new habit. Trigger, action, prize. As a one more thinker, your goal is to create new habits that focus on releasing dopamine and minimize perceived threats that release adrenaline and cortisol. Keep in mind, habits are directly related to your emotions that are controlled by your basal ganglia where emotions emanate. Whether you realize it or not, these habitual emotions control you. So when you reframe your emotions, you also reframe habits. Because habits make up so much of your life, you can make tremendous strides in all areas that you want to improve when you just adjust your way of thinking and develop positive habits. Creating new habits involves 3 steps: the trigger, the action, and the prize. The trigger. The keys to creating new habits are intentional thought and repetition. To develop these things, the first thing you should do is make a list of the habits you'll need to reach a particular goal. Be specific and write them down. For example, if your goal involves fitness, what are the habits you need to develop? What kind of exercise, eating, protein intake, and hydration